I'm not probing too far with this thing. Because as soon as I go near it with the bloody needle file, just take the paint off the surface, it's just fucking dissolving. And I think it's because this thing's been full of sandy water. I think this thing's done some sea and beach work, which is why it's rotting from the inside out. I'm not even going to bother cutting too much of this stuff out. I'm going to weld patches over the top. It's against my preferred approach, but it's quicker. And in all honesty, this rear cross member is going to need replacing probably in about a year's time, I would have thought. Otherwise, it's just going to be chasing. I can't imagine that I'm going to have much fun chasing holes. So if we go down here where the holes are at the moment, and all I normally do is put the punch on. So about an inch from the bottom edge, it's reasonably solid. The nearest the bottom edge you get, the softer it is. There we are, another hole. So I'm going to weld a patch that goes along there, over the top of everything. I'll get it through an MOT. I don't even want to cut out because it's a waste of a cutting disc. I'd rather use the cutting disc to actually cut the fucking panel off. These things rarely last long once they start, because they never rot from the outside in. They always rot from the inside out. Nice big chunk of steel there. It's not pretty, but it's effective. Some of these tiny holes over here, I was able to actually plug weld them. One went a bit bigger, but I was able to work around it. The rest of it I've patched over the top. I'm not anticipating the rest of the cross member is going to be in much better shape. I am certainly not going to be encouraging it to fail. Right, I've welded on a captive nut there, just a nut welded on the inside of a big washer, and welded to the door. I'm going to put a riv nut in that one, because the reason I did that was because someone had massacred the hole. Or was that my delivery just arriving? No. Someone had massacred the hole, so the only way around that was to weld that on there. Yes, and I had to put a blob of weld up here as well, because that was loose. Loosey. It's a late afternoon in the barn. Right. We started pulling this thing apart to do the timing belt. Like I said, there's plenty of instructional videos on this, so I'm not going to turn this into one. There are guys that can do it far less sweary than I do it. I will say one thing. This 30mm crank bolt here, I've taken, obviously it's been out and the crank pulley came off it. My Mr. Windy gun, let's turn these down. Silence. There you go, that's better. My Windy gun, my best thing in the garage, 680 Newton meters. That went at it for about 4 minutes. Kept letting the compressor recharge another 4 minutes. Oh, grief, it went on forever. Someone has been in here before, which is, I don't know if it's reassuring or not, because they've sealed it up with silicone. We'll see. We will see. But the next thing to come off is crank damper, then the water pump, then the whole body, blah, 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 blah. And I shall see. I shall come back to you when I can see the belt, and we can talk about that. The accessory belts, I've seen worse, but it's pointless putting these back on again. They're worn out. But they weren't shagged completely. So there is hope that this belt won't be completely and utterly, well, doesn't matter now, is it? Because I'm putting a new one on. How about that? Right, water pump's ready to come off. Different length bolts on this thing. It's pretty easy to work it out. There's 2 long bolts that go right through the timing case and into the block. There's 3 short bolts which just bolt the water pump up to the front of the thing. And there's 2 medium length bolts which go on this side over here. What I basically do is there's a nut at the top on the stud. So I work my way anti-clockwise from the nut, and then I put all the rods, all the bolts out in order from whence they came. In exactly the same fashion, these are the timing cover bolts. That one there caused me to sweat just a little. I really don't want to snap these fuckers. Right, so basically starting from the water pump, that was the first one I took out, and then worked my way around anti-clockwise. until I got up to here. That was the one that caused me all the bother. Look at that. Not sure if I'm going to remove this stud or not. There's quite a lot of gloop around it. We'll see. We'll see if the it wants to move. You can hear it wants to move. I'm using a rubber mallet and I'm not bashing it. Yeah, it's pivoting off that, so I'm going to get that stud out. I've got some stud extractors that'll come out fairly easily. Right, stud was properly wedged in. It's kind of siliconed in. When you put bolts into engines, chaps, try to put them in drier than a witch's tit. I mean, honestly, they don't need to be that fucking bone dry. This is the worst one. I mean, look at it. Why would you put a bolt in so dry? God. Anyway, enough of the fucking whinging about bolts. Enough of the whinging about bolts. This cover's now going to come off. Right, encouragingly, this thing's not swimming in oil in here. That's the encouraging part. Probably need to get the belt off, but before I get the bolt, I mean, there's a fair amount of crap in here. I don't think anything's particularly leaking. I mean, a lot of this looks like a bathroom sealant. Patron saint of bodgers, that is. I'll give it a clean up in the parts washer. But it seemed all right. Let's get this thing up to top dead centre. And then I can have the belt off. I might do the belt tomorrow. It was 5:30. I should be able to do the belt today. I want to get the belt off and have a look at behind the various pulleys and idlers and things and see what's actually going on. I don't actually know what this stuff is. This looks like it's actually a rubber solution. Yeah. Well, it worked. There's no oil on the outside of the engine. Try not to though, chaps, eh? Have a look at all this shit. It's all on the inside of the engine and everything. Well, it's not on the inside of the engine. It's on the inside of the timing case. At least it comes off easily enough. That'll burn nicely anyway. We'll have a bonfire. Oh, yes. Right. So up here we've got that's the fuel pump. That's the tensioner. That's the idler. Obviously the crankshaft down there and the camshaft here. Nothing particularly nasty. I just need to go and look at the marks now. There's one mark there. A dot. I think he needs to go down to here. So I need to rotate the engine over clockwise. I get the dot lined up. And then there's another dot or a line over here somewhere. There's the line. And then there's a slot here that I need to put my pin into. This pin here. Goes into there, but it needs to be up here before I do that, so I'm going to rotate the engine over and to get it at top dead centre. These kits, by the way, I mean, I bought this one to do this job, but it's 200 TDI, 300 TDI. It comes with a world of different crank sensors and God knows what else, and all sorts of bits and bobs, and it made pulling the damper off a piece of piss. There was no issue at all getting the damper off, so for the sake of 30 quid, probably saved me about 2 hours. And that's just going the toolkit. The next time I have to do a 200 TDI or 300 TDI, I've got the belt already, got the kit already. Yeah, seems all right, doesn't it? There is a little bit of wet in here. There's places where there is. That up there, water up there was, I think, from when I pulled the cover off and the water came out of the the water pump intake gallery. Right, let's get this fucking thing apart. Might need a bit of a clean out. Still, it's a laugh, isn't it? Got the belt back roughly in place, so the tension can go on now. Idler wheel's in there, it's not torqued down yet, none of it's torqued down. Put the tensioner wheel back in there, then I'll wind it over a couple of times, and then we encounter a problem. What's it, made out of fucking bone china or something? Let's going to be a fucking storm in a minute. It's going to go medieval in a minute, believe me. It's... What time is it? If I can get my watch out. Oh, it's 4:20 and it's getting towards the shortest day, so yeah, it's going to get quite unpleasant pretty soon. So I'm going to head back inside. Poor horses are up there, but they've got their coats on. And then Saturday we're going to sort that polytunnel out. I think it'll be relatively straightforward. It's just one of those things that when I pulled the cover over on it, we ran out of time, so I thought, let's just weigh the sides down. It won't get too stormy until January, and I'll have the digger come over in December, and we'll dig a trench down either side. It's only about a foot wide, foot deep, but it's, you know, 72 feet long. If I can avoid doing that with a shovel, then I will do so. But things happen, don't they? Right, let's go and have a look at this. So this is the one that was broken in the box as the packaging arrived, and this is the one that I bought just down the road at Devon 4x4. The blue is even really similar. So it looks like that Jaguar Land Rover are definitely moving towards the blue box. So the message is, don't be put off by the blue box. When I've opened the box up, first of all, nice brown wax paper. Secondly, the thing just feels better quality. It's just got a nicer feel to it. If we look at some of the areas on the back, I suspect these back plates are possibly... No, there's no way these made by the same people. This is just a world different in the way it's put together. It's just a pattern. The other thing I've observed is, as part of the bearing, or the bearing face here, we've got much more robust ring holding the outer part to the main bearing. It just feels more robust. This one here, you can see it's much narrower ring on the outside. The rings of Saturn. So there is a fair difference between these two, even though one of them costs 20 quid more and is made in this country. I think given the choice, I'm going to go for UK made every time. Oh, how times have changed. That one obviously had a fault with it. The other one, which was sent as a replacement very kindly, thank you very much, is exactly the same. So it's exactly the same as a broken item. Just feels... How different is the edge here? You can even see just the way the plastic's moulded. You can see the difference in it. On the left, on the right, sorry, there's a Brit part. On the left is the British manufactured. Inclement is the weather. Right, what I'm going to do, horses over there have their morning carrots. Beastly weather. I'm going to put the timing belt on this, finish this, get the bonnet put on there, reverse shoot up into the field, because I want to get blue car up to this end, because it's horrible working underneath cars at the best of times, but when the rain is coming in through the side of the barn, it's even less fun. So let's concentrate today on white car. We're going to do you tomorrow. There we are, decided. Now, what I did do is, because the wiper mechanism on the right hand drive rack is different to the wiper mechanism that came off, I had the wrong clips on the blades. So the blades had this style of clip, which was for an earlier style of arm. So I rifled through my box of shite. This is where my never chucking shit away thing comes to, even keeping old fucking wiper blades. I don't know why I swore them, but they've got the right clips on them. So I should be able to recover the clips off there and get that put on. That's a Citroen one, I think, that one. Recover the clips off the blades to get the wipers working on this. But I think primarily now we need to get the clutch sorted out, we need to get the timing belt sorted out, and then I can drive this out. Timing cover, water pump, both on. Now I'm going to, I think next thing I want to do is plumb the radiator in because I don't want oil spewing all over the place. Then we'll do a test start. Once I know the engine starts, then we can fit up the rest of the pipes, cooling system, blah, 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 load everything up, turn radio off. First and foremost though, we need to straighten this thing out. This is the radiator support panel, and it's a bit all over the place, but I reckon that can be fairly easily straightened out. It's not too bad, but you can see here, it's more crinkly than something that's been screwed up and crinkled. Yes. Right. Leave me to get on with that shit. Let me move the camera out of the way. Okay, last check over. We should start up. What I might do is just move the power steering pump down and rest it on the steering arm. I don't want it to fall off. Yeah, everything apart from the alternator is on. Crank pulley, or the damper, is doing up to 255 foot-pounds. I haven't got anything that will go that high, so I'm going to use, I've tried it on the breaker bar. I'm going to have to use the windy gun, which is a pain in the ass because it means I've got to take the radiator out again. But never mind. Shit happens. Now, this thing should start up, I'm hoping. There's no reason why not. So let's find the key e-poo, which is over here. Let's see if he starts. If he starts, then we can carry on with the assembly. Let's hope this isn't a weapons grade fucking fail. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Let's get out of the way. Go up there. I'll get the windy gun on this at 255. It's just not going to happen otherwise. Right, out of gear. Oh, we're out of gear. Okay. Ha! Battery. Should we get the battery on, or should we just loosely attach it? Where's my spanner? Oh, I'm here. I'm right here. That's where the fucking spanner is. Where's my 13mm spanner gone? I'll use these. What we got here? 1/2 inch. Well, that's an exciting bit of viewing there for you to watch me doing a spanner up, doing a nut up. Okie doke. It's done it again. Let me sort this out. I forgot I disconnected this. This is the wire that goes to the solenoid. Silly arse. These things happen though. It's because I needed 2 hands for that. Right, just check the wires over here. Onto the solenoid itself. They're fine, they're good, they're good, they're good, they're good. Now let's see. Battery's connected. Everything's fucking falling off. Let me sort out some of this crap, but the engine runs, as you can clearly hear. I need to just check that I can rev it, but it's turned over and it started, and I'm happy with that. I'd say that's a Brucey result. This little chap is the oil pressure sender that came off the car. Yeah, it looks a bit dead, doesn't it? Right, good job I bought another one. It wasn't working anyway, so I knew the circuit was working because you've seen that already in my electrical testing. Now, I bought another one, and I know... Anyway, this is the oil pressure switch, PRC 6387, which goes on a 200 TDI. It comes with a washer that's far too big for the thread. In fact, I shall demonstrate how big the washer is. There's the washer it comes with. there's exactly the same thread. I'm very cack-handed, I'm afraid. I'm working without a tripod. Anyway, luckily I've got loads of little copper washers, so I've been able to seal it up with a copper washer. It goes just down there. In fact, you can, if I put my head torch down there, you could just about see the wire down there. And that's where the oil pressure sender is. So let's now, we've got the battery on, let's see if it works. So what I'm looking for when I turn the ignition on is I want to see a ignition light and I want to see an oil pressure light. Oh, he shoots, he scores. Right, so we've got oil pressure light. Now, does it go off? It does. I need to adjust the idle speed. Idle speed's too low. The idle speed where it is at the moment is a bit wobbly, isn't it? Right, now I know I've done that. What I'm going to do next, I think, is I'm going to top up the coolant on this thing. So I put all the hoses on apart from the top hose. All new hoses throughout, all new clips, well, reused clips actually. All new hoses throughout though. A couple of hoses I've got to put on here. This little fella, which is kind of a bleed hose, I guess, that goes to the top of the radiator. It's getting cold. Temperature's dropping. I'm going to get this job done just in time. I also need to bleed the power steering through. So I'll get that sorted out before I start the engine up next time. Bleeding power steering is dead easy. You just fill this up with ATF and you start the engine, you wind the steering from lock to lock and keep topping this up, and then eventually when it stops sucking through and you'll find the steering goes nice and light, then you set the level with the marks on the little dipstick that goes in there. That works, doesn't it? Right, let's get this hoses on and get this job done today, because I want this out of the garage today so I can start working on that tomorrow. I've also got a chat with a digger coming tomorrow, because the breeze has dropped, but the temperature's dropped as well with it, because we need to dig trenches down the side of that to bury the fabric, because it is getting mullered in this bloody North Devon, leaving the horses sheltering right at the top end of the field up there. Right, okay, so we're a step forwards. I like being a step forwards. Just every now and then it's nice to be a step forwards. Just check that's not leaking down there. No, it's not. It's not. It's just lots of crap and gloop and shit all over the place. Obviously, accessory belts went on as well, or drive belts, or whatever you want to call them. The trick with these is you need to put the alternator belt on first, but don't bother to tension it or do anything with any of the bolts until you've got this belt on. There is a knack that you put the socket in there and you pivot it as much as you possibly can until you can just about get the belt over the edge of the lip on the main pulley, and then you crank the engine over on a socket, on a 30mm socket clockwise, and it puts the belt on. They're a bit of a ball's ache to do otherwise. But yeah, that's all working. Okie doke. What next? Oh yeah, coolant. Very short memory span. Bonnet's back on, needs to be lined up properly, yeah. Clutch is bled, filling the cooling system up, go for a drive. What do you reckon? Woohoo! Oh, I need to bleed the pads as well, that's a reminder for me. The other thing I've just noticed, a little extra job that I've forgotten about, is all the wiring and everything is the wrong way around. What the fuck was that? That was a leaf or something just fell down there. All of the wiring is the wrong way around for the bonnet heaters and also for the pipework, but that should be fairly straightforward to swap around. I'm not particularly concerned about that, and I still need to adjust this bonnet up. So I'm not going to go berserk on dropping the bonnet down and never being able to open it again. Top tip on that, by the way, is to leave the grill off. Leave the grill off until you know that the bonnet closes properly. The wind's dropped and the rain started. Arsehole. It's running quite sweetly. I still need to do up the steering shaft, but I've got the steering now. I've wound backwards and forwards a couple of times. Power steering's working. So what I need to do next is the steering shaft itself, because this thing needs to kind of centre itself before it can actually do anything. running quite sweet. That's sweet enough for 200 TDI. I don't mind the 200 TDI. Uncomplicated, and at least it's got a degree of power to it. Nice clean exhaust on it though. Right, let's do up the steering shaft. Bonnet's on, bonnet sort of lines up. Needs a bit more work, but for now, we're good. So let us see if we can drive. Reverse. Handbrake off. Whoa, we're going. I've come in the wrong fucking place. Never mind, the lights work. Yes, they do. Power steering's nice. It's not the most refined of vehicles, but you know, I think once I get this gearbox cover on in here, it's going to be a lot better. I raised the idle to 1,000 and it's quite quiet. Drops down to 700 or 800 and it's quite rattly. Right, let me go and I'm going to go move the other car. If I can get out of here. There's no light in here. This is that problem I've got with the reverse lights. They're sort of like flickering, so I just need to adjust the switch. I haven't done it yet. Right, go into reverse now, handbrake off. A little bit of play in the drive shaft, in the drive train I should say, but it's not the end of the world. It needs to go in the block really a couple of times. Right, just put you here, then you're in then, aren't you? That was all in high range. We're going to test low range out. It needs a good run around the block, this does. And once it's had a good run around the block, then I'll be able to confirm diagnosis on all the other bits and bobs. I should increase the revs just by 100 RPM, I think. Definitely want something. Just a bit too rattly at idle. Right. Good show. That's not been a bad day's work, that. So what are we now? 5 o'clock on the nose. 6 hours. 6 hours to get that turned around, put the engine together, sort the oil pressure, fill the cooling system, attach all the cooling hoses, bleed the power steering, fit the bonnet. Then tomorrow is your turn. Poor old thing. Want you working again. There we are. How about that?